Just two adjacent girls living in a lovely world. They took a podcast train going anywhere, but kind of specifically through Austin, Texas. Yeah, hook 'em horns.
Welcome back, y'all. Welcome back to a special edition of Adjacent.
Who's your daddy?
Who's your daddy? So Father's Day passed a few weeks ago, and now we have July 3rd, our father's birthday, and we are going to be celebrating him like we did our mom with a little podcast tribute. So, Shelly, who was our dad? What was his name? What do you know about him?
Well, before we get into dad, we have to talk about one of your besties. It's also their birthday. Happy birthday, Daniel Roscoe.
Sure is. It is his birthday. And he and Dad had some similarities, those cancers. They have, let's talk about, so there's some interesting characteristics for the Cancer. They're highly intuitive and empathetic, deeply emotional and compassionate, nurturing and protective of loved ones, sensitive to the feelings of others, and can be moody and prone to insecurity. Moody. They like their homebodies and enjoy spending time with family, loyal and devoted, strong sense of tradition, can be nostalgic and sentimental, craves emotional intimacy and connection. So yeah, they're intense. They have Dad has had a lot of mood swings at times, but he was very strong-willed. I had a lot of lessons from our dad that I learned for sure. So what was his name? When was he born? What do you know about him?
Name is William Fredrick Silvey, and he was born July 3rd, 1943 at 5:40 a.m. And he was born in San Antonio at, I don't know, I didn't Google it, but it was PS Hospital. And the very interesting thing on his birth certificate, it has the mom and dad, and one of the questions it says was legitimate.
Oh, wow.
I know.
Golly.
One of the questions on their birth certificate is this child legitimate?
That's terrible.
That's some shady, disturbing stuff. His dad at the time, Papa Bill, was he was a first lieutenant in the Army, and he was stationed in Australia. So he was in Australia when Dad was born, and his mom, Bobby Sue Hinsey, if you grew up in San Antonio, you might know this name because she was Miss San Antonio.
And that's where we got all our looks.
That's where we got all those. And so, anyway, fun fact. That's a fun fact. And so,
well, and Bobby Sue, what I remember, she was a beauty, but she did not want to be considered old, so we were not allowed to call her grandmother or granny or gram or nana or Mima or anything. We had to call her Bobby Sue. She did not want to be called anything else than that. So
no, we only know her as Bobby Sue.
Whereas our grandfather, William Franklin Silvey, we called him, what do we call him? We called him
Papa Bill.
Papa Bill. That's what
Papa Bill. And I was a big fan of old Papa Bill. He'd let me shoot the guns. He'd let me drive the Jeep. He was like, you go, girl. Whatever you want to do, let's go. You want to go swim in that pond? You go swim in that pond.
I would not have swam in that pond.
It was a dirt. It was a dirt.
There was a pond. So our dad was considered William Silvey II, but their middle names were different. Our dad's was Fredrick and our grandfather's was Franklin. But Dad and our Papa Bill, they there was a family ranch over in Seguin. It was about 100 acres. It had cattle and some horse every once in a while. There was a baby horse on there, a little horse that we would ride on, that poor horse. We did not know what we were doing.
Brownie.
But they were the first ones that would like give us a fishing pole. We'd drive the Jeep. I ran it into a tree. And then shooting guns, we would shoot into the ponds. And Dad said, shoot all the turtles you want.
That's right. Shoot all the turtles. So much fun. It was like, it was like being a feral.
Yeah.
But it was like feral paradise.
Feral paradise. I think all kids need to have some of that experience, you know.
Yeah. It was like, go run. Who can shoot the bell? Who can shoot the bell?
Oh yeah, that bell. I remember that bell.
And that house even had a moon house.
Yeah. So it had an outhouse.
An outhouse.
Yeah. I remember Papa Bill got bit on his head while he was taking a number 2 in the outhouse. He got by a snake.
Yeah. I remember being very scared to go in there. And
I think I pulled it the whole time.
Yeah.
I was like,
that prepared you for teaching.
Or for left field.
Or for left field. Yeah, and so yeah, it was a fun adventure. So I did a little deep dive on Dad back in the day, and I wrote it all out, and now Culture has a tendency to go through my computer and delete everything, which is super fun. And so I have to always keep an external drive, and but I think I lost it. But I was doing this deep dive on Dad and found, because I have his yearbooks and stuff like that, and did this deep dive and found out things I had no idea about my dad.
Yeah,
it was so interesting. And so he in grade school, when he was in grade school at like age 8, he contracted polio. And
I knew that.
Yeah, and he was in the hospital for a couple of years. And the polio experience was so interesting. There wasn't a lot of. I have our grandmother's diary and some information on it, but it was just like this dark time where he was in the hospital, and they tried to make it fun for the kids and stuff that were dealing with polio. But man, just I can't imagine, because he was like us. He was always on the move, and then to be hospitalized and have to be immobile for a long time. And so the other fascinating thing, like his involvement in school, we always thought like he was like this super athlete,
Yeah.
And
no, he just seemed larger than life to us, I think.
Yeah. And but he was real involved in theater and music. He had a crush on one of the lead singers in the plays, and he just wanted to be a part of that. And so he was in the choir and theater, which shocked me. I had no idea. And that's just unexpected. I mean, I remember him singing, but I never remember him belting it out or anything.
No.
And he was definitely theatrical for sure, but I don't remember necessarily. And I would have never guessed that, because he had that machismo thing going. That was hyper masculine, and so that was his high school. Our dad had 2 younger brothers, Uncle Donnie and Herbie.
Right.
And after high school, our dad joined the Army. And then he was in the Army for 2 years. And this was all during Vietnam. And then he joined the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
So let's double down.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in Vietnam. And did a tour with the Army. And then I'm going to come back home, and I'm going to become a Marine.
And I'm going to re-sign up. and volunteered to go back into it, but as a Marine. And then he became a Marine sergeant.
He became a drill sergeant.
And he kind of ran our family, a little drill sergeant. Like when we were kids, we had an above ground pool on 407 Traceway in Sweetbriar. And we thought we were like the shit in that neighborhood because we had an above ground pool. And none of us knew how to swim, but Dad was a lifeguard at some point, and he would tell us just
in San Diego. He was a lifeguard on the San Diego beaches.
And he would tell us to get on the side of the pool and kick, and he would scream at us like, kick, like he was a Marine sergeant. And we'd be like, we have a cramp, kick, just these little girls kicking their little legs, but all of us, like, none of us really learned to swim very well. We could kick for days.
Oh, we could hold the side of the pool and kick.
Yeah.
And the funniest thing was going to Garrison, and before we could go have fun, we had to do our kicking, and people would join in, and they were like, "Coach, come on!" and join in, and it was like, what the flippity flip.
Yeah.
I have to say that between Dad being in the Army and before he went to the Marines, he came to Austin to visit his younger brother, Uncle Donnie, and Uncle Donnie had a really close friend named Betty.
Yes.
They went to Austin High together.
Yes.
Crazy. They went to Austin High together, and Donnie was madly in love with Betty.
Yes.
And Betty met Billy, and was like, what is this dangerous thing? And shifted gears and went out on a date with Dad, and that's all she wrote.
Yeah, they got married in a fever.
I love to say that Mom said one of their first dates is they went to the tavern on 12th, and they walked out, and that Dad had too many beers, and family trait, and they walked out, and that gigantic roach was across.
Oh, right, because it was pest control.
Yeah, and he was freaked out by that gigantic roach. He was like, what's happening?
Maybe he was doing something more than just drinking.
Yeah. Who knows? He had been in Vietnam where they were doing lots of freak goodness.
Yes.
But the and so then, they get pregnant with Tim and get married, and they in that order.
Yeah.
and he re-enlists and joins the Marine Corps and heads out to San Diego.
Yeah. And then she has to wait at home with her kiddo while he's away. And I remember she would love that song, Tie a Yellow Ribbon Around the Oak Tree.
Oh, such a good song. Whenever I see a yellow ribbon to this day, I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
That hits hard. And so then Mom and Dad have Tim, and he's doing tours in Vietnam, and he comes home, and they get pregnant with Casey, and then he comes home, and they get pregnant with me, and they move out to California for a little while, and those are probably when they were in California is probably when they took the most family pictures of us. And it was Mom pregnant with me and Tim and Casey. And so we have a lot of videos, and
I think they went to Hawaii one time, and there were some pictures of them in Hawaii, because there's this one of Dad wearing white pants, which I never saw him wear.
Yeah.
Except for that picture with a blue shirt. And Dad had like the bluest eyes, like the sky.
Yeah.
And his eyes were just so like piercing and beautiful. And I just remember when he would wear his Mrs. Bairds Bread blue shirt, they really popped.
Oh yeah, that was a blue shirt from Mrs. Baird's. And what's so funny? Like in the last 3 months, whenever there is a, like we're having a conversation about Dad with me, and because Coulter loves to talk about him, and Adrian will bring him up, and whenever we do it, we see a Mrs. Baird's truck.
Oh, that's him visiting you.
Oh my gosh, it's so crazy. We're like, again?
That's so funny.
It's so funny. It's like, it's usually when we're out camping, so we're in smaller towns.
I believe in that stuff.
Yeah, and it's like, well, hi, Dad, and it's so interesting. But
I love that.
yeah, so they get back from Vietnam, and Dad gets back from 4 tours of Vietnam. He gets 4 Purple Hearts.
Yeah,
And he was shot 4 times, and
nice in the head. His helmet protected him, but he had he was concussed.
He's concussed.
I'm telling you, he looked like he survived polio. I think he also had the mumps, and then he also survived 4 Purple Hearts during Vietnam. So,
and he survived cancer for a hell of a long time.
Long time.
He was a fighter.
Yeah, he was very much so.
Yeah, and so we moved back to Austin, and then they're pregnant with Jody.
I think they had some miscarriages in between. Like,
Yeah.
I think between you and Casey, there were some miscarriages.
Yes.
And then you and I, there weren't any. And then when they had Amy, there were some miscarriages in between.
I think they had 2 miscarriages between you and Amy.
Yeah.
And so we're in Austin and at 407 Trays Way, learning how to swim.
And I think they got that house real inexpensive because of military service. Yeah. So I think it was only $14,000.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was only like a 2-bedroom house with 7 people in it and 1 bathroom.
Yeah.
And then they enclosed the garage and made a 3rd bedroom. And then that's when Tim got to live his private life in his own bedroom. And we were all in the 4 girls in that 1 bedroom, but it didn't feel crowded. Other than the bathroom situation. I remember everybody waiting on Tim to finish dropping a deuce.
So I remember us, sorry for this crude share, but I remember us going on a trip, like driving home, probably from the ranch, and that all
because we didn't go on many trips.
Yeah, all of us driving home, and we all need to go to the bathroom, so we would just go to the tub.
It's okay, you can wash it out.
all of us would just like
sit like birds on a wire. Sit across the tub with our tiny tot butts, tushes. Yeah, well, you gotta go. We didn't do in there.
That's probably why Tim always had athlete's foot.
No, that's because he would shower at school. He was in school. Oh, I mean, Mom was very clean about that stuff.
She was.
She was always cleaning. Mom was never and drinking coffee. She was cleaning, drinking coffee, and smoking her cigarettes. But she was very clean about
and hauling court. No,
she was a good hard worker. She worked really hard on that stuff.
Yeah.
And then I remember when we were kids, Dad would always get the same kind of dog. He would always get German Shepherds because in the military, I think that the German Shepherd must have been like what they used, for military time. And so he would get these full-bred German Shepherds, and he named all of them Brandy. Brandy 1, Brandy 2, Brandy 3, Brandy 4. I think we stopped at Brandy 4, maybe Brandy 5. They're great dogs, but he would never deviate. It wasn't until he was really sick that we ended up getting an old English sheepdog named Oliver Lord Nelson. And I'm sure he was like, "What are you doing? Why are you deviating?" But then he passed away soon after we got Oliver. But those German Shepherds, I remember. He was very fond of his German Shepherd dogs. But he treated them like dogs. It wasn't like your pet. That was his dog. Even though he loved his dogs, dogs were not like in-house dogs. They were outside creatures. Also, where were we going to put a giant German Shepherd? There were 7 of us in a house. So, but he used it as more of like a guard dog to
It
protect
was a
us.
guard, a
Mhm,
guard dog.
mhm,
And yeah, and when we got Oliver, I feel like Oliver was so in tune with Dad that I think Oliver like knew he was sick and would follow him around and kind
mhm.
of nurse him.
Yes.
So heard him, if you will,
Yeah.
and just like, where is he? Is he okay? Let me see. It was so interesting.
Yes.
Um, yeah, our dog game, and then we had a bunch of outside cats. Mama cat that had like 500 babies, and it was like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh,
We were not very good pet owners, but we learned a big
uh,
lesson about being good pet owners.
agreed. We learned it was a cautionary tale. I was like, don't do this. But the yeah, it was very fun and interesting. And our dad tried to he went to ACC for a while and tried to become a welder,
Mhm,
and he worked at Mrs. Baird's. That was his primary job forever and ever and ever and ever.
mhm.
And Mrs. Baird's, it was old school where they all leaned in, and like when he got sick, I mean, they really just leaned
Oh,
out, and yeah,
that company, like, they took care of our family,
they
when
did.
Dad got sick, and, so that was Dad's primary job. He also coached on the side and umped on the side, and but he paid all of our bills with that Mrs. Baird's Bread, salary. It wasn't until he got sick that Mom started working on doing her crafting and doing odd jobs like that, floral shop, things of that sort. So, but he had her stay home with the 5 kids and raise the 5 kids while he went. I cannot imagine that a bread delivery guy could pay for 7 people,
Yeah,
nowadays in Austin. No way.
no way. And
I would not be able to do that.
one of my favorite memories was Dad on weekends would do hot shots where you would go move the bread and make sure everything was ready for the
Uh-huh.
weekend. And so I would go with them
Yeah.
and hot shot. And nobody wanted to go with them, but I loved going with them
I
because
went a couple of times,
yeah,
but
our dad would talk to a wall.
yeah,
He would talk to a wall,
it took
and
forever.
it
Yeah.
took forever. So you're not I mean, a 10-minute run into an HEB to straight into
Uh-huh.
bread, an hour and a half later,
You'd be cutting out.
you're getting a free soda and probably a candy bar, and your dad has, talked to 30 people. And it was like, I loved it. And just the people watching, and I learned so much from that. Is like Dad was like, talk to 5 people a day, talk to 5 people a day, try to meet somebody new every single day.
Yeah.
And that just really resonated with me and became like a core part of my identity is like,
Yeah.
you know, talk to people, don't walk past somebody.
Yeah.
And it definitely, out on the baseball field when he was coaching, if you were a man shack optimist between the years of 1974
Yeah.
and when he got really really sick, if you were there between 1974 and 1989,
Right.
you probably came across
I think he stopped at about 82.
well, but he was still out there. Like
Mhm.
he was would go out to the field, and they named a field after him.
Mhm.
And so you experience Coach Silvey.
Mhm.
And we would love to hear those stories and really appreciate when they named the field after him. That was very meaningful to
Yeah.
him. And when they closed Man Shack and moved it over to 1826 or 1626, they reached out and I picked up the sign, and it was like, this was such a core part of him.
Yeah, I remember that. Being at the baseball fields, we talked about it. We were like so feral and we just run around in that dirt and while he reffed, and he was a really great coach of the Pirates. And he would
The
tell,
Pirates.
if you win, I'll take you out for pizza. And then we would all get to like go for pizza with the team. They were really good.
If you made it into the car, if you remember to get to the car before he drove off. And so, yeah, that was such a core memory and
Yeah.
such a good time. And I know, like, talking to Lance and Rich and them, and it was like,
Yeah.
they're like, yeah, we remember your daddy.
Yeah. Yeah. He was kind of a larger than life personality.
Yeah.
I also remember I did one of those going on bread run with him on a weekend where he took me to LaGrange, and I had to dress up like a cherry and hand out cherry pie, like little bites of cherry pie. And I think I got paid $25 for that, and I'm sure I looked ridiculous, but And I remember he would pick us up in that bread van from Beta, and I would get real embarrassed, because he used the company van as like our family transportation. So there'd be like 5 kids sitting in the back of a bread van, just rolling around without any seatbelts. And we would go to like Aunt Dodo's or to Sunday, or he'd pick us up from school, and then the kids would yell like, "Can I get some, sweet rolls or something?" And I was like pretending to tie my shoe like the whole time. And now I'm like, what a smart man. He learned how to like stretch a dollar and they let him, I don't know how much they let him, but he did, and they didn't stop him. But we took that bread van to Schlitterbahn.
Oh my God. They took it everywhere. It was like,
It was our mode of transportation. We had different cars, but usually he would get our cars from Mrs. Baird's, or he would take our cars to the mechanic at Mrs. Baird's, and they would repair our cars for us and keep them rolling and running. And he was just really smart. He was smart on how he negotiated with people. He wasn't a taker. He wasn't a user. Like, he would hunt and he would give some of his meat to the people that, he'd get it processed and everything. And he would give some of that to the workers, or he'd give what he could to them. They were a real family there. We'd go to family
picnics, the big family.
And I mean, they were part of our family. Like, we were all one big, huge group. And, he was kind of one of the ringleaders there.
Well, and one of the core lessons I learned from him, and you just mentioned it, is like, he was even Steven. It was like, I'm even Steven. I do not owe anybody anything.
Yeah.
And I have some of his books where like he bought a car from somebody and he tracked every payment he made, and he was like, even.
Yeah.
And that was so important to him. He was like, pay cash, don't use credit cards. That was such a life lesson, and so powerful. And it brought him so much pride that he was not indebted.
Never in debt to anyone. And that was a big lesson he taught us. And he bought each of us a car. I don't think Amy, because he had passed before she turned 16, but he bought me a car, you a car, Tim a car, Casey a car. Tim may have bought his own car, but I remember he bought everybody a car. And that's hard to do when you have, back then you didn't have to, you would just buy liability insurance, but
it wasn't like today. Those cars, I mean, it's relative, but like one of the cars, I saw the payment thing, and it was like a $200 car.
Yeah, mine was $300.
Yeah.
So, and then I sold it for $900. And I was like, man, look at me. And then I couldn't afford a car after that, but that's all right. We made it work. We always made it work. We always made it work, and and one thing I loved about Dad, I always thought he was like, I loved when he would go grocery shopping, because Mom was really like on a tight budget, and she would only buy like what's necessary. But when Dad went grocery shopping, it's like we had soda pop and we had treats and ice cream, and so it's like a big deal. But I definitely had some food insecurity issues, because I was like, there were so many of us. I was like, I better eat all this food before somebody else eats it.
Well, and Dad would always get sweets,
Yeah.
and then he would ration them, which was
Yeah.
so funny. He was like, "Y'all can have 2 Oreos a day,"
Yeah.
and then I just remember like coveting those Oreos,
Yes. Yes.
and
It was a
then
big deal.
it was a big deal, and so you would slow roll eating
Yes.
the
Yeah. But he would love his ice cream and Coca-Cola floats.
oh my gosh, but the Oreos, I remember him, like, you'd turn around and he was eating, like, 7 of them,
Yeah.
and I was like, "This isn't fair." And he was like, "Well, did you earn any money today?"
You're like,
And I was
"No."
like, "Okay, you eat those 7 Oreo
Yeah.
cookies."
He also had the prettiest lawn
He
in
did.
the
It was
world. He
meticulous.
had St. Augustine. We had this beautiful oak tree that you could climb. It was a beautiful climbing tree, but he took care of that lawn. It was his pride and joy. I remember when we moved to Castle Hill, and that's when he was extremely sick and the lawn wasn't getting done as much. And it was a real sign. It was like, ooh, this isn't good. I think some of the neighborhood kids would try to come and mow, or Tim would mow, but it never looked the same. His lawn was so beautiful. He knew how to take care of the lawn. He was very proud of it. And he'd get out, he'd had worked all day, he'd come home, sometimes even after radiation or chemo. He'd come home, he'd have his socks on that were up to his like mid calf, white socks
Just
with
like Coulter. Just
white
like Coulter.
with his
It's like Coulter is like reincarnated
he is the
dad.
embodiment of dad. You're so true. And he would have his black work shoes on and the white socks and like those coat shorts that fit so interesting for men. Like tank top or a wife beater of some sort, and he just mow. But I think it was his therapy, like like how
How this
John loves to mow. How it's a way to
That's white noise. It is
it's
so
white
cathartic.
noise.
I
It
love
is.
mowing. I'm like,
Mowing is the best.
yeah, don't put
It's
any
the best.
earbuds in. Just
No, just listen, live in it.
breathe through
Yeah,
your breathe through your nose.
breathe through your nose, not your mouth, guys, not your. So, what do you think was the craziest thing that you remember Dad doing? I think
Uh,
he was pretty stoic.
yeah, I don't remember. I mean, I remember. Oh, I mean, when he was yes, I remember him. Like he chemo, radiation, whatever. He was always walking around in his tidy whities and just
Yes.
like so rail thin and still thought he was,
Yeah.
intimidating. And
Yeah.
I remember him walking out in front of your friend Pat
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 Brown.
Brown
Mhm.
and just belly laughing,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh, here he comes around the corner.
Oh gosh. And that's what your son does now.
Exactly, that's Coulter's, like, yeah, that was probably the craziest thing,
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard stories.
I think we
So
hear more stories because I think he was a man's man. He was a
Mhm,
guy's guy, and he liked being with his bros, his
mhm,
friends. He spent a lot of time. We mainly spent a lot of time with our mom's side of the family, and he would go hunting a lot with his
mhm.
friends. And his he was always gone on Casey's birthday because her birthday was the beginning of
Deer season.
deer season. And so he would be gone, but that's how he basically fed our family. Like, by doing those hunts, he would get food for us for the year, you know? Um,
He'd
and
go hunting with Uncle Don
yes, and he
and
had,
hang that deer up in the back of Uncle Don. The Johnsons lived in the same neighborhood as
yeah,
us, and you'd go over. So we were walking distance, and
yes.
we would like.
But I don't think we ever walked there really.
I remember walking over and that deer being hung up, and they
I
just
remember
gutting
walking in
it.
there, being in the back going, ah.
Yeah.
Hey, who was his friend? You'll remember his name. Uh, he looked like, oh
I know you're
gosh,
gonna say it, Burt
Burt
Reynolds.
Reynolds.
I'm sitting here. He was married to Susie. It's driving me nuts. And
Yeah.
he's up in heaven with Dad now, and
Yeah.
that makes me so happy. At Bairds, there were two. Dad had two best friends, and one of them looked like Burt Reynolds, and the other one looked like Robin Williams. And we would talk about it all
Yes.
the time, like Burt Reynolds, and I can't believe I'm drawing a blank on he was such a favorite
I
in our
bet Tim
family.
would remember.
Oh well,
I
Amy
remember
would.
when, yeah, I
Susie,
remember when Dad passed away. So when Dad would come home, he would knock on the door with his ring. And he would say, "What's the magic number?" And it would be like 5, because 5 kids, or 7 because there were 7 of us. But we'd have to say the magic number. But I remember after he passed away, I had the feelings. We talked about this the other day, and you were like, you thought that he was still alive after he had died, because he was just larger than life. And I remember his friend came to our house, and he hit the door with his ring, and I was like, oh, Dad's here,
That's
and
nice.
I was like, what? And then I opened the door, and then I was disappointed. I was like, oh, it's not our dad, but hi.
Hi.
Anyway, but I remember him. I think he would go hunting with him too. I remember one time before Dad passed away, he got the honor to go hunt for free at King's Ranch. That was a really big deal to him, that he finally got to do that. And it was a great honor to him. And he took it as just this giant gift. And I don't know if it was one of the people from Mrs. Baird's that got him that treat, or it may have been his doctor, who you've kept in touch with, his ears, nose, and throat doctor, who they became really good friends after 11 years.
Or it was Richard.
Or, it could have been Richard Sladen. That was one of his best friends from Mrs. Baird's. Richard Sladen worked at Mrs. Baird's to pay his way through college. So did Tim, by the way. And Dad and him became
and he played UT football with Earl Campbell.
He did, Richard Sladen, and he became an anesthesiologist, and then
in Harlingen.
In Harlingen, that's right. But Dad loved him like a son, almost like a. They were so close, and I think it was. I remember going to their house. Oh, and I remember his wife,
Mary.
Mary had, she was beautiful to me. I just thought she was so gorgeous.
She looked like in Urban Cowboy. She looked like the long.
Oh yes, yeah, the sauntering one. And I remember she had really good hair shampoo. We had to shower there, and I was like, "This is good stuff."
This is what doctors' wives buy.
I was like, I know. I remember weird things like that. Like I remember the sound our grandmother's hair her head made when she would scratch it with her fingernails. And I remember one time going, "Can I scratch your head?"
I remember you saying that. That's hilarious. I
wanted to know if it made the same sound. I don't know. It could have been a wig. It just sounded like, I don't know. It was like such a strange noise. But Dad's hunting was something that he really loved to do. He had a lot of guns. Sometimes he would sleep with a gun under his bed. He always had one eye kind of open when he slept, because I think his military days kind of kept him on edge, He was definitely always on edge when he was raising 5 kids. I would be on edge too. So he did have, like Shelly said, he had 2 brothers, Uncle Donnie and Uncle Herbie. Uncle Herbie died in a tragic accident of a in-home shooting. And that was like the first time I ever saw Dad cry. Uncle Herbie was going to be a lawyer. He was in law school. Dad was really protective of his brothers, and he loved his brothers very, very much. But I remember that when Uncle Herbie died, it was a big tragedy in our family, because Dad He didn't show he would show emotion, like he would show when he was angry or when he was very pleased, but he didn't cry a lot. I only saw him cry a couple of times growing up. But it didn't mean that he didn't feel it fully. Do you remember when that happened? Were
Oh
you?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It was very emotional. And then our Uncle Don's youngest son was also murdered the same way by a different person that's not related to us.
Yeah.
And it was very traumatic. And so those would, if you ever want to dig into some criminal, how you like to do some criminal stuff, that would be very interesting to dig into, because it is very, if you're from the Palestine area, you probably remember some of those stories, and pretty traumatic. But that when Uncle Herbie passed away, I think Dad and Uncle Herbie were very close. They both went to Vietnam, and so they, had that connection. And so a very, very unique time. Another thing that Dad was very engaged in, and him and his dad were both, is the Masonic Lodge.
Yes.
And that was a very, very important organization to our dad. And he was the president for a while. I always think of Happy Days with the King Poopah or whatever. But they were very stoic. The Masonic Lodge was not as silly as Bridget Cunningham's dad, but that's how I always pictured it.
Yeah.
When our mom passed away and I found all the stuff from the Masonic Lodge, I reached out to them, and they were like, we sat down and had lunch, and they were like, yeah, your dad was a vital part of this Masonic Lodge. And so they all came in and shared stories, and it was a very lovely experience. And so thanks to the Masonic Lodge, and thanks to Mrs. Bairds, and big thanks to Manchac Optimist. Those things brought Dad so much happiness. Hunting the Sladen family, he loved the Sladen family. That was a huge happy space for him. And Richard's also in heaven with Dad, and he has his tribe and his posse, and I'm sure if there's hunting up in heaven, they're doing it. And they're having a good old time. So some good memories, and a beautiful life for sure.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So what were some values that you think Dad passed down to you?
Definitely the even Steven is a core value for me. Is like
never owe anybody.
Never owe, and it's at a toxic level. That for I think for both of us is that I do not want to be indebted to anybody. But I'm thankful for it. And I'm thankful that I feel very at peace that I don't have, outstanding debt.
Yeah, I think Dad was definitely, he tried to show us a lot about, I think you're right, it is a toxic level for us. Like, we also have a hard time, like Dad, even though at times he liked to be noticed.
Jody, I remember the name.
What?
Doug.
Doug.
That was making me so sad. Doug from Mrs. Bairds and Susie were such a huge love of our dad's. And Doug's the one that looked like Burt Reynolds.
Yes.
He's the one that knocked on the door with the ring and shook us up a little bit. But that was Doug. Continued to be, part of our lives. Oh my God.
He was very kind to our mother.
Oh my gosh. So supportive and just handsome and funny and engaging and very much
a real light in the room. He lit it up. But That's okay. I think another value Dad passed down to us for sure was a work ethic.
Oh, yeah.
He worked from before the sun came up until after the sun went down. He would relax. He would sit on his recliner and eat his, his
7 Oreos and his ice cream.
yes. He
His
had a sweet tooth for sure.
yeah, his Coke float.
Yeah.
Coke float.
But he definitely, took care of his family. That was really important to him.
Yeah.
And I think the work ethic was a huge part of what he did for all of us. For
Oh
sure.
my gosh, the work ethic, like he would go to chemo, radiation, very, very frail thin, and then he would come home and he was still doing hot shots and still working at Miss Baird's, and he would come home after that and mow the yard, and the yard was big at that time, and it was like just and show up to all of our
He showed up.
dance. He showed up to all of our dance and cheerleading, no matter how sick he was. And,
I mean, there became a point where he couldn't anymore.
Yeah.
But I remember him being very present, and
Very
you
present.
felt his presence. You felt his presence. Like you would, you know how they show those new videos on TikTok where it's like the kid's kind of scanning the audience looking for his family.
Yeah.
And then he spots them and he just lights up and it says, show up for your kids, show up. That was, we could spot Dad. Well, also he wore his hat, like, like barely touching his head. I think it was a military thing. And it was like, oh my gosh, what were you doing? Like you can spot it. It was like sitting way off his head. He always wore a baseball cap because he was bald. He was bald from like middle school on.
Yeah. It was.
And so I remember, so maybe that's why we're so into baseball hats. But I think he raised us all to be hardworking, committed to our families, family first. And like you learned that there's never a stranger.
Oh,
It's
my favorite. That's my favorite trait. Just watching him engage with people. And Jody, since we started RV life and we go into these small towns where Dad did a lot of hot shots and stuff, like
Lockhart and the small towns.
Yeah, Lockhart, Lampasas, and all of
I think you like to drive. I think.
Oh yeah, and but going into like near McKinney Falls, I remember going into those places with him, and so I feel so connected. Like in Lockhart, it's like, oh yeah, we dropped off bread here, and if you can find an old timer in some of those towns, it's like, hey, do you remember Bread Man?
Yeah.
Bread Man.
Probably too late for them now. That was
Yeah.
Well, do you remember when Dad? He was driving the bread truck and he got in a terrible accident and it slipped and it really messed up his back for the remainder of his life. He was in a lot of pain, but he wouldn't really, I mean, you knew he was because he'd occasionally talk about it, but he didn't just live like a big suffering life. Oh my gosh. So Dad was kind of a prankster. He was a little bit of a joke.
It was a big prankster.
And
which drove Mom nuts.
Yeah. So he would be like getting his surgeries and his chemo, and then Mom would go and stay with him in the hospital. And he would say, why don't you lay in the bed and I'll just sit over here? And she goes, okay. And then like one of the nurses would come in. He goes, she wouldn't let me sleep on the bed. She kicked me out. And he would do things like that. He would he was silly at times.
Well, there was at that time there was a show called Fridays where Jim Carrey did this thing called Burnt Billy, and he was fire marshal, and he had burn marks all over him, and because of Dad's radiation, he had a lot of burn marks, and Dad would he was like, I'm Burnt Billy, and kind of make fun of himself. He'd do the bit on it, and and one time we had to call an ambulance because he wasn't doing very well, and all the firemen came, and we're all like, high school age girls, and all these firemen come in the house, and we were like gorgeous, and they were so gorgeous and so helpful and kind. And
I remember they picked Dad up, and he looked so frail.
Yeah.
And that was the last time he didn't come home after that.
Well, it happened multiple times.
Oh, this is funny.
And after the first time, we were like, Dad, can we call the ambulance?
Yeah,
Can we call the ambulance again? All those firemen, so the firemen will come and see us again. And he was like, go ahead. And we're like,
yeah.
I was like, because Mom was out of town and was like, we were.
He was such a goofy guy. I remember sitting there watching Airplane with him before he passed. We would go lay in the bed with him. And he would be like, but no, by all means, y'all take the bed. I'll sit in this chair,
Oh my God.
And we were just kids. So, we didn't know. And we didn't realize. We thought he was going to live forever.
Yeah.
And then, I remember.
He's just going to live forever with cancer.
I know. We didn't realize. I mean, afterwards, Mom she would tell people, but I guess I wasn't quite ready to listen. But that cancer had spread all over his body. It started in his lymph nodes. He believes it was because of the Agent Orange. His doctors tend to agree as well. We did not follow any suing the government or anything like that. What's done was done. But I remember after he had been taken away by the firemen in the ambulance the last time, I remember praying, and I regret the prayer because I'm like, did I do this to him? I would say if it's his time, it's okay. He doesn't need to suffer anymore. Take him if he needs to go. And then he didn't come back. Kind of live with regret on that, but it's just the way it was. And as his short life, because he was only 47 when he passed. Can you imagine only being 47, leaving 5 kids and a wife, and just suffering for 11 years with cancer? That's a long road with cancer. And it changed all of us. It changed our whole soul, So I love him and I miss him every day, So I wish that he was still here and he could have met all of our kids. I actually think they would have grown up even better.
I know. I'm like, this shit wouldn't be happening if Dad were here.
Dad would have. Oh, he whooped us. He would take a belt.
And I have to say this: Dad would have been a permanent fixture in left field.
Oh my gosh, he would have.
He would have thought.
Well, he loved baseball,
and
he loved baseball.
And Stacy were the cat's meows.
Well, he would have probably been a little creepy.
He would have been all about left field. He would have podcasted with us for
gosh, yeah. He would love this whole ride.
Yeah, he would, and Adrian and John and Santa. Oh my gosh.
I mean, everybody would have had so much fun with him because
who do you think his favorite grandchild would have been?
Coulter.
Twins. They're twins. They're twins.
Coulter is kind of a steel trap at times.
Oh my gosh.
Dad would have gotten into shenanigans. And
oh my gosh.
Don't tell anybody, Coulter.
I know. It's like, hey, come do hot shots with me. He would have, I think.
Even after Dad, when he was really sick, he would just go and pull the bread forward, and take out all the dead bread,
Yeah.
Bring it home for us to eat, even though it was mildew.
He was
not a wasteful man.
It was
I loved. He was not about he never really bought anything with too much he wasn't pizzazzy, he wasn't show-offy. I love that about him. He would wear the same clothes all the time. He didn't care. That was not about where he found his wealth and his riches. His wealth and his riches was in his family and making sure he did the best in his family.
And connection.
Yeah. So I learned a lot from him. I miss him. How old would he be today?
Oh my gosh. Coulter. Coulter would know. I'll have to do math. I have to say that while you're doing the math, if you have a story about either one of our parents, we want to hear it. We love them. We
Yeah.
love hearing about them.
Yeah. They're
we love,
hilarious.
you
They're
know,
very unique people. He would have been 82.
82.
82 today.
Wow.
Well, happy birthday, Dad.
Happy
love
birthday,
you.
Dad. We love you.
Texas, Texas.
Yeehaw. Even though he was an Aggie.
Ugh. Boo.